me.
You're going nowhere, Space Case. You're here because you're an industrial straight follow-up. My job is to whip you into shape. And I'm talking whip. There's only two ways out of my command. On your feet like a man, or in a ditty bag. An itty-bitty ditty bag. Got it?
What is going on, guys? This is BroncoJuggalo, and I am coming to you with a very special review. Now, this is the return of the BroncoJuggalo and Hey Internet Eric Here review challenge. I challenge him to a movie, he challenges me to a movie, we review them, then we challenge each other again. He just recently watched Transformers 1987 for me, and he reviewed it. So go and check out that video. I will put a link to that video at the end of this video. He then challenged me to do another 1987 film, G.I. Joe the Movie, the animated movie. Well, guys, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite movies from childhood. I love this movie so much. Growing up, this was a movie that I cherished. I have it on VHS, or I did have it on VHS. I absolutely loved it. It was right up there for me with Ninja Turtles and He-Man and everything else. I love that. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me get to the particulars real quick. As I said, this came out in 1987. It was directed by John Dunwich. Aside from the entire cast of the television show, it also stars Sergeant Slaughter, yes, the wrestler Sergeant Slaughter, as Sergeant Slaughter. He is one of a few people to ever have a G.I. Joe named after him. He did a few guest spots in the TV show as well, and he's always been one of my absolute favorite Joes. I had his figure when I was a kid, so how many people could say they've both been a wrestling figure and a G.I. Joe figure? That's awesome. It stars Burgess Meredith as Colobulus, who I think does an amazing job and has such great range of voice for this role. It stars Don Johnson as Lieutenant Falcon. Yes, the Don Johnson plays our main character basically in this film. Cobra and a brand new enemy hailing from Cobra Law have set their sights on taking over the world. And not only taking over the world, but threatening the world with a basic apocalypse. In pursuit of that end, they have to steal the BET, the Broadcast Entity Transmitter, which is in the G.I. Joe's possession. Broadcast Entity Transmitter is a device that will give the world unlimited energy. The G.I. Joes aren't taking this laying down. They are up, they are ready, and they are going to kick some snake ass. Some quick fun facts. Not only are those regular stars in it, like I mentioned, but the entire cast makes an appearance in this movie. The entire cast of the 1980s G.I. Joe TV show is in this film. Something else that is very interesting about this movie is this movie was actually set to come out before the Transformers film did. But it didn't. There were developmental delays, and the movie release date was pushed back to a later date. Transformers was released, as well as the My Little Pony movie got released. And due to, honestly, the lackluster box office production of those two films, it sent this movie straight to home video. This movie never did get the theatrical release it really deserves. And it's a very good movie. I think it definitely would have done okay in theaters. You know, thinking back on it, the 87 Transformer film probably didn't do as well in theaters because a lot of people were like, parents, like, I'm not going to take my kid to see that. I got work to do. We're busy, you know, whatever. And I really think that's why it didn't do as well. Now, if it came out now, if they would have put that movie out now where we got that, you know, original flavor, that original, you know, nostalgia for the original series, it would have done pretty well, I think. But back into what I was talking about. So, because of the developmental delays of this project, Transformers ended up coming out first. And an event that happened in the Transformers film drastically changed an event in this film. In this movie, Duke, the main G.I. Joe from the cartoon series, is supposed to die. And in fact, he did die. They had to redo part of the film. He takes a snake right to the heart from Serpentor. It is bloody, it shows blood, it's kind of, you know, a little bit adult, and he dies. And then the G.I. Joes literally have his funeral. They had all of that in the movie. Then the Transformers movie hit the theaters. And the backlash from the fans and from the parents was huge. So the production company in their infinite wisdom said, okay, we cannot have Duke dying. The backlash against Optimus Prime dying was so huge, it changed this movie. The character of Scarlet voice was added to say he slipped into a coma. They cut out the funeral scene. And at the end of the film, the voices of Doc coming over the radio, even though that was not part of the original, and then General Hawk saying Duke is going to be A-OK, he's out of his coma. But the other parts of that where they're crying, where at the end of the movie Falcon looks up to the sky and says, "Thanks, big brother," all of those scenes make more sense if Duke died. But overall, it's still a pretty powerful moment. So guys, getting into pros and cons time, I have no cons for this film whatsoever. I love this movie. It's such a great film. Like I said, it's one of my childhood favorites, and it's still one of my favorites to this day. So let's get on with pros. My pro is I love the opening theme song they did for this movie. All About Cobra. It's a really good song. It's got that heavy, deep, bass going through it, and I just fucking love it. And it makes you get all into it when they say, when the G.I. Joe line comes around. It's really awesome. They did a great job on that opening sequence. They did new artwork for it, all of that. It looked really good. My next pro is that they introduced some awesome new characters in this movie. Like in the Transformers movie, they introduced a lot of new characters. But they did not kill off all the old characters, which they did that a lot in the Transformers movie. They killed off a lot of the original characters, which I was not a huge fan of. I missed Starscream. I missed, the original Megatron. I missed Ironhide and Optimus Prime. I was one of those kids that wept and cried when Optimus Prime died. I really did. And I don't care who knows it. It's in my Twitter profile. It's a lyric from one of the Buckshot songs, No Belong. And yes, I cried when Optimus died. I have no fucking problem admitting that. But the new characters that are introduced here are awesome. Slaughter's gang, Rawhides, Lieutenant Falcon, Jinx. I like them all. They are cool characters. Another big pro is I like that they use the same artwork style of the original cartoon show, and they just do it a lot better. It's a lot cleaner, it looks nicer, and it's quite a bit more detailed. But it's the same style, the same look, and it fits just perfectly into the franchise. I love that we got this great story, which was so much darker than the rest of the franchise had been at this point. I mean, we're talking about not just world domination, we're talking about worldwide destruction and genocide, which was really dark at this point. And I fucking love that. I think this movie has a great plot, a great story. I think it's animated extremely well. It's directed well. The voice acting is on point. And I just fucking love it. One of my big pros for this, guys, is we get to see the slaughterhouse. We get to see the environment that Sergeant Slaughter is from, and I love it. That's something I always wondered about when I watched the show as a kid is, Sergeant Slaughter, I want to see his part. I want to see where he's at all the time. And I got to see it in this film. And I thought it was great. He's out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, worst kind of environment, and he is doing some specialized training to whip people into shape. And that's what he does. And when Falcon, who is up for court-martial, they don't want to kick him out because it's a waste of resources, they send his ass to the slaughterhouse as a punishment. And when General Hawk says, "I'm sending you to the slaughterhouse," and bam, hits that gavel down, you could see the seriousness in his face. Then it turns and shows Falcon's face, and you could see the fear that just gripped his eyes. My final pro here, guys, and what might be my biggest pro in this movie, we get Cobra Commander's backstory. Now, the citizens, the denizens, the story behind the Cobra Law bad guys comes into play. We find out, spoilers, that Cobra Commander is a citizen of Cobra Law. He was a young, up-and-coming nobleman in this society, this ancient society. he is an up-and-coming young nobleman who catches the attention of Colobulus when he gets messed up in a laboratory accident. And I just love the backstory of this. Colobulus has been behind Cobra the entire time. He has been behind the creation of Serpentor, much to Dr. Mindbender's dismay. He has been pulling the strings silently behind Cobra the entire time, and nobody knew it except for Cobra Commander. But Cobra Commander, being the kind of person he is, of course did his own thing, tried to take all the credit, all that kind of stuff. And of course blamed everybody else when things went badly, which of course for Cobra, they always did. Guys, this is one of my absolute favorite films of all time. I love this movie. It is so good. If you are a fan of the G.I. Joe 1980s television show and you never saw this movie, you need to see this. If you just like 80s animation, you need to see this. If you are a casual G.I. Joe fan that just saw the new movies, you need to see this movie because it is better than those movies. And then also, if you are a younger person who's never seen this movie or the G.I. Joe franchise, the original G.I. Joe cartoons from the 80s, ask your parents. Tell them to find these. You can buy them on the internet. You can get them on eBay. They come from Rhino and Shout Factory, I believe. I have them all. Trust me, you can get them. Check them out because this is a true great cartoon. This ain't no fucking SpongeBob bullshit, okay? I can't give this movie a high enough rating, guys. I love this film. But that is it for my review of G.I. Joe, the movie from 1987. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Now it is time for me to challenge Eric to a movie. And I've decided, Eric, to stick with this motif. I want you to review G.I. Joe Resolute. Now this is a movie that came out a few years ago. And it continued the story of the original G.I. Joe team, the original G.I. Joe cartoon. The artwork is a little bit updated. It looks pretty good. But the storyline is there. All the characters are there. And it is honestly a bit more of an adult storyline. It kind of grew up with its fans. If you have a hard time finding this movie, let me know and I'll challenge you to something else. That's not a problem. Because it shouldn't be hard to find. It's on eBay, I believe, pretty cheap. But yeah, that's what I would like to see you review, buddy. And then maybe, you know what, next time we might get back to some horror movies. Thought about doing some horror here, but I actually came up with G.I. Joe Resolute right when I was talking about this movie, because I started thinking about that movie and I was like, oh, I wonder if he's seen that. That's a good one. So yeah, I'll put the horror movie that I had in mind off till later. This is BroncoJuggalo saying thank you to everybody out there. Please like and subscribe and check out my channel, check out Eric's channel. Hit him with a like and subscribe. Check out all of his videos. He has great content. Like I said, the link for his video and the link for his channel will be at the end of my video right after my Patreon shoutouts. Big shout out to my Patreons. Thank you so much. I got 4 Patreons right now, and that's awesome for just starting this. So thank you very much, Jen. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, John. And thank you, Craig. This is BroncoJuggalo saying peace.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.